I want you to take a moment and think about the last time you felt a slight headache at the back of your neck, or perhaps a moment where your vision felt just a little blurry after a long day at the office. Most men I see in my clinic dismiss these as signs of stress, too much caffeine, or just getting older. But as a cardiologist who has spent over 2 decades standing in the gap between life and death, I am here to tell you that for many of you, those are not just symptoms of a busy life. They are the final warning shots from a cardiovascular system that is about to fail. My name is Dr. Carter. I want to tell you about a patient of mine named Robert. Robert was 46 years old, a successful contractor, a father of 3, and by all outward appearances, the picture of health. He hit the gym 3 times a week and could outwork men half his age. One Tuesday morning, Robert sat at his kitchen table and used a home blood pressure monitor his wife had bought him. The screen flashed a number. Robert looked at it, felt fine, shrugged it off and went to work. 4 hours later, Robert was in the back of an ambulance, unable to move the right side of his face or speak his own name. He had suffered a massive ischemic stroke. When I reviewed his charts, the culprit was clear. It was that single number he saw on his monitor that morning. In this video, I'm going to reveal exactly what that number is. It is a specific threshold that indicates your arteries are no longer just strained. They are at the breaking point. If you see this number on your screen, even if you feel like you are in the best shape of your life, you're standing on the edge of a cliff. By the end of this deep dive, you will know the difference between a high reading and a fatal reading. You will understand why the standard advice you hear in the media is often too late for men in their prime. And I will show you how to identify the silent indicators that a stroke is moving from a possibility to an inevitability. Do not click away, because the next 10 minutes could quite literally save your life or the life of a man you love. To understand why a specific blood pressure number is so dangerous, we first have to strip away the medical jargon and look at the plumbing of the human body. As men, we often understand how machines work. We understand that if you put too much P&C into a hydraulic line, that line will eventually burst or leak. Your vascular system is no different. When we talk about high blood pressure or hypertension, we are talking about the force of your blood pushing against the walls of your arteries. But here is the problem. Your arteries are not just static pipes. They are living, muscular organs lined with a highly sensitive layer of cells called the endothelium. Think of the endothelium as the Teflon coating on a frying pan. When it is healthy, it is smooth, allowing blood to glide through effortlessly. But when your blood pressure hits the specific danger zone we are discussing today, that smooth surface begins to tear. These microscopic tears create jagged edges. This is where the disaster begins. Your body tries to heal those tears by sending cholesterol and inflammatory cells to the site, creating what we call plaque. Now, imagine a high-pressure hose hitting a piece of loose debris inside a pipe. Eventually, that pressure is going to cause that plaque to rupture. When a plaque rupture happens in the carotid arteries of your neck, or the small vessels deep inside your brain, your body's natural defense is to form a clot to fix the leak. That clot is what stops the blood flow to your brain. This is an ischemic stroke. Within seconds, brain cells begin to die because they are starved of oxygen. There is also a second, more violent type of stroke that high blood pressure causes, known as a hemorrhagic stroke. This is when the pressure is so intense that the artery wall simply gives way. It explodes. Blood spills into the brain tissue, creating massive pressure and instant damage. For men, the risk is compounded by a biological reality. Our arteries tend to stiffen faster than women's as we age, a process called arterial stiffness. When your pipes are stiff and the pressure is high, there is no give in the system. The reason high blood pressure is called the silent killer is that the brain itself doesn't have pain receptors. You cannot feel your arteries tearing. You cannot feel the plaque building up. You can only see the data on the screen of your blood pressure cuff. This is why that specific number is your only true warning. If you don't know what it is, you are flying blind in a storm. In the next section, we are going to break down the systolic and diastolic numbers, and I will show you the exact red line figure. That means you are in a hypertensive crisis. Now we come to the core of this discussion. We have talked about the mechanics of the heart and the damage to the arteries. But what is the specific number that should make you stop everything and call a doctor? Most of you have heard that 100 and 20/80 is the gold standard. That is considered normal. When you move into 130/80 or 90, we call that stage 1 hypertension. At that level, we are concerned and we start talking about lifestyle changes. But there is a threshold known as a hypertensive crisis. This is the red zone. If your blood pressure monitor reads 180 for the top number, which is the systolic pressure, or 120 for the bottom number, which is the diastolic pressure, you are in immediate danger. I want to repeat those numbers. 180/120. In the medical world, we call this the stroke zone. If you see these numbers, even if you do not feel a single symptom, your body is effectively a ticking time bomb. The systolic number, that top number, represents the force of blood when your heart beats. At 180, that force is so violent that it can cause an immediate rupture of a weakened vessel in your brain. However, as a cardiologist, I often worry even more about the bottom number, the diastolic pressure. This is the pressure in your arteries when your heart is resting between beats. If that number is consistently over 100 or hits 120, it means your vessels never get a break. They are under constant, unrelenting tension. There is also a phenomenon you need to be aware of called masked hypertension. This is especially common in hard-working men. You might feel fine during the day, but your blood pressure spikes to these dangerous levels while you are stressed at work or even while you are asleep. If you sit down to measure your blood pressure and see 180/120, do not assume the machine is broken. Do not wait an hour to see if it goes down. That number is a clinical emergency. It means the auto-regulation system in your brain is failing to protect you, and a stroke could be minutes or hours away. You might be wondering why I'm speaking so directly to men today. The data is clear. Men develop high blood pressure earlier in life than women, and are less likely to have it under control. There are several biological and psychological reasons for this that we need to address honestly. First, let's talk about biology. Testosterone, while essential for our strength and vitality, plays a complex role in blood pressure. It can influence how our kidneys handle sodium and how our blood vessels constrict. Furthermore, men are much more likely to suffer from undiagnosed obstructive sleep apnea. If you're a man who snores loudly or wakes up feeling exhausted, your blood pressure is likely skyrocketing to that 180 level in the middle of the night while you are gasping for air. This puts a massive strain on the heart that carries over into the morning hours, which is why most strokes and heart attacks happen between 4 a.m. and 10 a.m. Then there is the lifestyle factor. High-stress careers, the consumption of processed foods high in sodium, and the use of alcohol to wind down at night all create a perfect storm. Alcohol in particular is a major trigger for sustained hypertension in men. It stiffens the arteries and makes the heart work significantly harder. But perhaps the biggest risk factor for men is our psychology. We are conditioned to ignore pain. We are taught to tough it out. If a man feels a dull ache in his chest or a strange pressure in his head, he is statistically much more likely to say, "I am just tired," than to seek medical help. This toughness is exactly what the silent killer preyed upon in the case of my patient, Robert. In the eyes of high blood pressure, silence is not strength, silence is a vulnerability. The danger of hitting that 180/120 threshold is that it often leads to what people call mini-strokes, or medically, transient ischemic attacks, known as TIAs. A TIA is a temporary blockage of blood flow to the brain. It is the final warning before the big one hits. The problem is that in men, TIA symptoms are often so brief and so subtle that they are dismissed entirely. I want you to listen closely to these signs. If your blood pressure is in the high range and you experience any of the following, you are not just having a weird moment, you are having a neurological event. First, look for the heavy limb. You might suddenly feel like one of your arms or legs is heavy or clumsy for just 2 or 3 minutes. You might drop a coffee cup or trip over a flat surface. Second, pay attention to your speech. Have you had a moment where you knew what you wanted to say, but the words felt thick or came out slightly slurred? Even if it only lasted 60 seconds, that is a massive red flag. Third, watch for vision changes. Patients often describe a TIA as a grey curtain coming down over one eye, or a sudden bout of double vision that disappears as quickly as it came. We use the acronym FAST to identify these moments. F for face drooping. A for arm weakness. S for speech difficulty. T for time to call 911. For the men watching this, if your blood pressure monitor is showing you numbers in the 160, 170, or 180 range, and you notice even a slight tingling in your face or a momentary lapse in your ability to grip a pen, your brain is telling you that it is suffocating. These microstrokes are the tremors before the earthquake. If you catch it during the TIA phase, we can almost always prevent the permanent disability of a full stroke. But you have to be willing to see the signs and acknowledge the data on that screen. If you have discovered that your numbers are in that dangerous red zone, or even if they are just beginning to creep into the 140s and 150s, you need a plan of action. I call this the Dr. Carter protocol. It is a two-tier approach: what to do in the immediate moment of a spike, and how to rebuild your vascular health over the long term. First, let's talk about the immediate red zone moment. If you sit down and see 180 over 120, do not panic. Panic releases adrenaline, which constricts your blood vessels and drives the pressure even higher. Instead, sit quietly. Do not speak. Do not check your email. Perform a box breathing exercise. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4. Exhale for 4, and hold for 4. Do this for 5 minutes and retest. If the number remains at that level, you must seek professional medical evaluation immediately. Do not drive yourself. Have someone else take you or call for help. For long-term reversal, we focus on the 3 pillars of vascular elasticity. Pillar 1 is the potassium-magnesium balance. Most American men are overloaded with sodium, which causes the body to retain water and increases the volume of blood in your pipes. To counter this, you need to aggressively increase your potassium and magnesium intake. These minerals act as the electricians of the heart, helping the smooth muscle cells in your arteries to relax. Focus on leafy greens, avocados, and wild-caught fish. Pillar 2 is nitric oxide production. Nitric oxide is a gas produced by your endothelium that tells your blood vessels to open up. As we age, our production of this gas drops. You can jumpstart this naturally by consuming foods high in nitrates, such as beets or arugula, and through nasal breathing. Yes, simply breathing through your nose instead of your mouth increases nitric oxide levels in your blood. Pillar 3 is the post-meal power walk. For men with high blood pressure, a 15-minute walk after your largest meal can be as effective as some low-dose medications. It clears excess glucose from the blood, which otherwise damages the arterial lining, and it encourages better blood flow. One of the biggest tragedies I see in my office is the false sense of security caused by improper testing. If you are using a home monitor, the data is only as good as your technique. Most men are doing it wrong, and it's giving them a distorted view of their stroke risk. The first mistake is the cuff size error. Many men, especially those who spend time in the gym, have larger byproducts or bicep circumferences. If your cuff is too small for your arm, it will give you a falsely high reading, which causes unnecessary stress. Conversely, if it is too loose, it may miss a dangerous spike. Ensure you have a cuff that is rated for your arm size. The second mistake is the leg cross. Never cross your legs or ankles when measuring. This simple action can artificially increase your systolic pressure by nearly 10 points. You should sit in a chair with your back supported, feet flat on the floor, and your arms supported at heart level on a table. The third mistake is ignoring the morning surge. Your blood pressure naturally rises as your body prepares to wake up. This is when most strokes occur. I tell my patients to use the 2-2-2 rule. Measure your pressure 2 times in the morning before breakfast and 2 times in the evening before bed for 2 days in a row. Take the average of those numbers. This gives me, your doctor, a much more accurate picture of your true number than a single random reading taken after you've had 3 cups of coffee. We have covered a lot today. We have talked about the mechanics of the heart, the danger of the 180 over 120 threshold, and the microsigns of a stroke that most men ignore. But I want to leave you with something more important than just numbers. I want to talk about your legacy. As men, we often measure our success by what we provide for our families, the businesses we build, and the strength we show to the world. But you cannot provide, you cannot lead, and you cannot protect if you are paralyzed in a hospital bed or if you are no longer here. A stroke doesn't just happen to you. It happens to your wife, your children, and everyone who relies on you. Taking 10 minutes a day to monitor your blood pressure and making the choice to lower it is not a sign of weakness or getting old. It is an act of discipline. It is an act of love for those who need you to stay healthy. If you found this information valuable, I have a few requests. First, I want you to comment below with your most recent blood pressure reading if you feel comfortable, or simply type "committed" if you are going to start tracking it this week. I try to read as many comments as possible to see how you are doing. Second, if you know a man in your life, a brother, a father, or a co-worker, who is working too hard and ignoring his health, please send this video to him. You might be the person who gives him the warning he needs to hear. Finally, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. We are building a community here dedicated to male longevity and heart health, and I have much more to share with you about how to keep your engine running at peak performance for decades to come. I am Dr. Carter. Watch your numbers, listen to your body, and I will see you in the next video. Stay healthy.